Ahoy, welcome back to Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. Japanese aggression continues to take the world by storm, and the focus of that aggression currently is the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The rest of the world is dilly-dallying about, and they do not have a fleet even close to the power of the Japanese. The Americans only have cruisers and destroyers, and we have 40 battleships. The tonnage is real. And unless the world bands together, I don't see them surviving. The Hungarians are pinned in the Aegean Sea, and they are forced to use their capital fleet to defend their transports. And so I must fight these transport fleets in order to weed out the capital ships. We have our Euro-class scout cruiser coming in hot and heavy. Two of them running in teams of two. It seems to be the optimal. These guys can launch so many torpedoes, it is ridiculous. Big misses there from that first spread as the light warship takes evasive action. The second warship in formation, Matsushima, is launching her spread of torpedoes. She's going to stagger the launch. Each of those cruisers has 4 quad launchers on each side of the ship. So a total of 32 torpedoes ready to go. We just need to swap sides. One of our destroyers is threading through the enemy, putting themselves in danger here of a friendly torpedo hit. We better straighten their course a bit, and we'll get them after that transport. We also have another destroyer here coming up on the outside, on the left side of the formation, to offer a pincer maneuver, but it doesn't look like she will need those extra torpedoes, and the battle is finalized. The Cmdr will be firing off the finishing torpedoes. Let's see how many hits we can get here. March of 1932. The Hungarians have been unable to sneak any of their capital fleet out into the Med with their transports. They're effectively curtailed, their aggression hampered. And so now we meet. They've sent a major fleet out to fight us. We've got the battlecruiser Yari and a solid line of battleships here out the back. They shouldn't be too much of a trouble. They do have a significant number of ships. Goal here is to rush our DDs up as usual. Find out what we're dealing with. Try and get some hits on those battleships. As I mentioned, there is a significant presence here today. Make sure that Hayanami does not get hit by that torpedo, but she's taken 2 solid hits. She's in a little bit of trouble. She will have to abort her charge. I did use the smoke a little bit too early. There are a lot of cruisers here. Managing to get the fish in the water. We will have to run. She's taken a major hit too, as has the other destroyer in that formation, getting locked down. There's just too much fire for them. We don't have much of a destroyer presence today. Destroyer squadron has been annihilated. They did get their fish off, but that was a little bit unwise, that attack. Now it's all about the gunnery. We've got to keep our battleship lines safe. We are a fair distance away. I don't think those fish will make it to us, but we should start pulling away from their formation. The goal here now is just to focus down their capital ships, get the big guns out of the fight. We only scored 1 torpedo hit, which is pretty pathetic, but we have really scattered their formation and they're struggling to get into a cohesive line while we are already putting out accurate fire in a solid battle line. That battleship there ramming up alongside the cruiser. They're still trying to figure out who's in charge of this fleet. Only the battleship is putting out any type of responsive fire, and it's going for our battle cruiser, which is really what we want. Battle cruiser is fast and maneuverable. If she takes any big hits, we'll just turn her out of the formation. She has a fire now, so we will turn her away. Taking a bit of a gamble here just to push in closer. Trying to increase our accuracy just to take advantage of this disarray here. Oh, the Achilles has been smashed. Torn asunder. The Austro-Hungarian battleship, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his name, is now exploding as it tried to escape that hail of Japanese armor-piercing fire. All of the turrets are now reaching the moon. The second of the Hungarian battleships is now trying to take up some kind of resistance. The cruisers are within range, but they are already dialed in, and our battleship line will take no prisoners. Any ships that are presenting themselves as aggressive targets are being focused down. Every time a cruiser pokes its nose out, we're just hammering them. Oh, jeez. That one's striking through the barbette, smashing into the powder room, and the second of the battleships is destroyed. All that's left now is the cruisers. Now that their capital ships are destroyed, they may form up for a bit of an attack. And now our fleet are coming within secondary range, and our battleships are armed to the teeth with 8-inch secondaries. No, they don't want a part of that. They're turning away and running. Realistically, I don't think we took any damage besides glancing hits on the Yari, as well as the loss of our destroyers. Nasty. And in terms of victory points, our destroyers are worth nothing to the enemy, so we can afford to lose them. Same turn, the Hungarians have a second fleet that they're willing to throw away, and this time it's against our flagship fleet. The Hattori class, in its abomination of a second iteration. All different types of turrets fitted to it now. The Nishinotori is a battle cruiser. Pretty standard looking battle cruiser fitted with quad guns on the front. And I loved that stepped turret arrangement that I was able to manage from her. Well, let's have a look at what the Hungarians are fielding. They have what appears to be classic Dreadnought era hull. We have a significant destroyer presence today. The Nishinotori is going to lead up the charge. Going to charge in with her quad guns on the fore. The battlecruiser will draw fire while our battleship line prepares itself, gets its turrets around. We have a lot of turrets to swing around. And we have a lot of pain to wield. Okay, we are within range. First shots are out. If we turn her slightly to port, we should be able to get most of those guns on target, taking a fairly aggressive stance today. Destroyers have started their attack run, making sure to use the smoke when we are much closer to the Hungarians. They were able to focus our destroyers down in the last battle. We don't want that to happen. And we have an attack coming from both sides. So we're going. The aim here is to pincer them with torpedoes, turn away, cause that chaos that we love to sow, and then gun them down. Pretty much my standard doctrine. It's been working. We've taken relatively minor losses throughout the campaign. Only a few losses, which is truly quite remarkable. The AI just doesn't have the power to respond to you once you start to beat them. And if you've sort of cornered them on the strategic map like we have, it's very easy to beat them. I'm not sure if turning up the difficulty would assist that. But that torpedo spread coming in from both sides just pinned that battleship. She has nowhere to go. Any form of damage control has just been wiped from the decks. I think there's 2 battleships and a light cruiser down, with a 3rd battleship in a lot of trouble. The Hungarians thought they were in for a fight today, but we deemed them unworthy of a fight, and we have just cleansed them. Whoa, that was a close dodge there from the Kashi. Kashi, I guess, is one of our hero destroyers. She features quite often in our episodes. Our 3rd battle of the turn is again another transport battle. They're trying to sneak their warships out, and they've got no other cover for them. This is one of our dedicated cruiser destroyer squadrons that I am going to experiment with. The flagships of the formation are the Euroclass cruisers, and they have quite a substantial destroyer escort. And we are about to obliterate these ships. I couldn't tell you how many torpedoes we're about to launch. but it's quite a few. 16 aside from 3 light cruisers, and then, well, I don't even know anymore. We've lost track. We have all the torpedoes. We're making sure to target all different ships here, and we're just going to send out the ultimate spread. And our destroyers are no slouch in gunnery either. We focus them on gunnery, all the turrets. Okay, destroyers, please target all different warships for your torpedoes. Let's get them out in the water. We have torpedoes on the way back from the enemy, but not enough. We'll circle around and then charge. Keeping an eye on the enemy torpedoes as they come in. Merchant ship's been sunk. I think that was by gunnery. Making sure to turn off the torpedoes. Sendai is coming a little bit close to that torpedo that's running up on her starboard side. We dropped so many the game can't render them all. If I zoom out, they will disappear. But man, oh man, 21 hits so far. We scored a 35 hits from those spreads of torpedoes. A lot of them were overkill. Definitely overkill. But we still have another side each. Oh, watch out. Akashima! They're all coming at us. We have taken a few hits from these cruisers. Being very ballsy. The Akashima got hit by a dud torpedo, fortunately. Enemy destroyer coming in nice and close. The lead ship of that cruiser formation needs to pull away. Akitsushima shall take up the lead. She's going to ram that destroyer to stop her advance, pushing her out of the way. Twice, nearly 3 times the displacement of a standard destroyer these cruisers have. 9,000 long tons, I think it is. So it's 9 times a standard destroyer. Get out of our way. Sendai getting her torpedoes off at a leisurely pace. And this design really is quite powerful. They have the firepower to take down destroyers. They have the armor to resist destroyers. They have the survivability to take a couple of torpedo hits. And they have brutal amounts of capital killing power. And that really is the best that the Hungarians have to offer. Doesn't seem to measure up. And so I think it's time for the land invasions to commence. I've gone through the fleet and I have scrapped heaps of our older class destroyers and a few of our older ships that just aren't viable anymore. Can't upgrade them, and so may as well get rid of them. Hungarians are pulling fleets out of their backside, hastily constructing the lightest ships that they possibly can to throw against our Hungarian Emperor class battleships. This will be a fight. 1 Kaiser and a whole heap of cruisers. Despite only having 5 ships, I think that I still have an advantage in tonnage. Because both of my Emperors are here. The Emperor, the flagship, and the Amagi. Now we need to try our hardest here not to throw away our destroyers, because they are all that stands between a watery death for our capital ships. If any of those destroyers... there are quite a few destroyers here too. So we need to keep those guys away from the Amagi and the Emperor. Or at least force them to waste their torpedoes right now. Which is one of the biggest upsides to attacking them with a small fleet first. Force them to waste their torpedoes, and then if they have reloads, it takes a good 5 minutes to get them in the tubes. And we can hear the Emperor-class battleships opening up with their main calibers as they take a hard port turn to bring all of their guns to bear against this Hungarian fleet, which should hopefully be one of the last that they field. we have blockades in place. So no great hits there with the torpedoes, but as I've said countless times now before, it breaks their formation to pieces. And it lets you get your cohesion and focus down the real big threats. We've sunk something in the mist. Whatever it is, it took a massive hit from our AP rounds. Using the destroyer's smoke there to cover our battleships for a short moment. We have synchronized fire there. Beautiful. Ideally, I'd like to get all the turrets firing at the same time. But we have alternating sizes of turrets. So we have triple and quad turrets, and so they reload at different rates. That battle cruiser got thumped. Absolutely thumped. And now all of the destroyers are charging us. We've sent out a screen, smoke's up. I'm going to run up alongside these destroyers, get them to launch any torpedoes they might have, and then gun them down. I'm pretty sure that my destroyers will be able to gun them down. We have 3 on 3. There we go. We had a detonation aboard. That swings that battle in our favor. She's losing all her propulsion, and she has main gun rounds coming in on her. Hit in the aft, penetrating shot. Hatsushimo finishing off the target quite quickly. Great work there from the destroyer. They have launched their torpedoes. Not the best angle for the longevity of our battleships. Kiyaki, take it. Oh, that was close. That was close. I expected her to take that one. Hatsushimo's lost propulsion. We've had to slow her down to get that flooding under control. Smoke out from her sister ships, trying to obscure her. And it looks like we've managed to push away this attack here. That has left us exposed on the left flank. Hatsushimo needs to withdraw from the battle. So only flooding in the aft shows you should be okay. Oh, this destroyer is going to take a torpedo. Doesn't know what to do. Blowing the bow off. 2 of our destroyers, Fubuki and Kiyaki, have taken hits. Substantial hits from the cruisers. And they are combat ineffective. We've lost the rudder. We've got flooding underway, especially on the Fubuki. Damage control teams trying frantically to pump that engine room out. Hatsushima, who was damaged in the initial engagement, is our only combat-worthy destroyer. She's taking fire from 2 angles, but we're just trying to push away this warship here. Get her damaged. She's floundering. This cruiser is very brave, coming in range of all of our weapons. The 14-inch batteries are nearly reloaded. Fire them! Fire the 14s! Too late. Amagi's taken that kill. Now the Emperor class has 14-inch armor belts. And if this cruiser with its 10-inch gun wants any hope of penetrating us, he has to come very close. And he does not want to come close. Fubuki and Kiyaki succumbed to their damage, unfortunately. As you can see, the Austro-Hungarian Empire is now a landlocked nation. This is our experimental battleship, the Kaiju. It hasn't been fielded yet, but we are able now to retrofit it with triple 16-inch guns of the Mark III variety, which will be extremely powerful, and I think they look amazing on this ship. So we're going to refit her just as she's come out of the dry dock. She hasn't seen combat at all yet, and the refit time will only be 2 months. Additionally, I forgot to note when I was building her that this ship is the first diesel-powered battleship in our fleet, which is an interesting concept in on itself. And look how close that turret is to to the superstructure. I'm going to make some slight adjustments to fix up that turret as well as balance the ship to be neutral offset, and then she'll be good to go. This is the Executioner class battleship, 100,000 ton battleship. It's built specifically just to break that 100,000 ton limit. It's coming in for its refit. It hasn't seen much combat. It has lots of 6-inch triples on the side, and it has quad 16-inch guns on the front and back. Pretty standard design, super firing turrets, lots of space on the deck to try and tighten up the citadel as much as we can. And the refit will see it have better armor scheme, better turbines, better auxiliary engine, as well as a big decrease to its draft. We're going from a positive draft to a negative 5% draft, and we're bringing the displacement down to a more manageable 90,000 tons. And that was because straight after I built this battleship, I built an even bigger one that broke the previous record by much more, 20% more than 100,000. So we don't really need her to be that heavy. And so we can increase the armor scheme as well as the speed just a margin. With the new engine room, the new armor scheme let us have lots of displacement space. So I thought, why bother filling it out? We'll just trim the ship down. She'll be much more effective and easier to manage cost-wise. The refit will take 12 months, so both of these executioners will be out of action for the duration of the war. Now, the Euro-class scout cruiser has proven itself to be a very effective design, and so rather than refit it, I'm going to come and do a subtype pass. So we're going to build a subtype of the Euro-class. And the main reason I do not want to refit the Mark II is because the new turrets I've been given don't allow for a triple turret layout unless I change the caliber. The Mark III 6-inch guns don't fit on the front in a triple turret layout, but the Mark II 7-inch guns still do. So the Euro Mark III will have 7-inch guns on the front. On the stern, we will have 6-inch dual turrets, and that is to try and minimize the weight. The Mark III actually has a lower displacement than the Mark II, and that's because she will have a more modernized engine room, and that is to offset the extra weight from the quintuple deck launchers. We have going 20 torpedoes aside, and we're switching her to fast propulsion torpedoes. On paper, the Mark III looks like a significantly better design with better guns, more torpedoes, coming in cheaper and a lower displacement. But we're going to keep the Mark II because it has different torpedoes. And I guess that's just the only reason. They both have the same secondary armaments in terms of mine sweeping, depth charges and mines. We have a GDP of $1.9 trillion, annual growth of 10%, and a naval budget of $12 billion a month. We are starting to take territory from the Hungarians. We are creeping into the Adriatic. There is not much time. We have the Prince's army is attacking from both sides into Austria and also into Croatia. We also have an attack coming in from the north, from Ukraine into Hungary, aiming to slice this empire in two, because when they collapse, when they lose all their ports, there's going to be a lot of territory up for grabs. And you just know the Germans want it. They're currently embroiled in a war with everybody else, but Japan's just doing its own thing. We're not getting involved with the German alliance. We have another transport fleet being defended by battleships. The weather is perfect for a close-range torpedo attack. This battleship has a lot of guns. Nice and close with both of our destroyers here in the mist. They know we are here. They're having a terrible time locking us down for a shot. And little do they know they're being encircled. The first of our destroyers has dropped her fish. Ayanami turning away to starboard now. Full power to the engines to escape at a brisk 35 knots. And it looks like a great spread. We've had one dud. But the battleship, with her long hull, is unable to turn through that spread. She's been hit by 5 torpedoes. Trying to turn away to safety to the port side, only to be met by a humongous swarm of long-lance torpedoes. 9 of them striking the port side of the ship and cracking her keel. The $12 billion a month budget is being mainly poured into research now, and we have access to modern heavy cruisers. It's been a little while since one of our Yamatos have had to have a fight. They are supposed to be the mainline battleship, but the way the mission system works is it keeps bringing in either my weakened fleets or my fleets that are flagship fleets, and we just pound the enemy into submission. The battleship Kawi is in big trouble. Her escort has been destroyed, and the Yamato trudging along 26 knots. They aren't fast, but they don't need to be. The second escort ship has been destroyed, so now the battleship is turning around to port side to bring her guns around. She realized that she has to fight us, but our Yamatos have a great firing angle for their secondaries, able to fire all of them. And we invaded all their ports and they gave up and surrendered. And that was the end of the Hungarian Empire. Alright, it's time for the Hattori to receive another refit, because look at this. The new turrets have broken the ship. So this is a new design. We have quad turrets on the deck. We have triple turrets super firing. We have a new superstructure, a new engine, a little bit slower, unfortunately, a little bit wider. We still have the casemate turrets just to add to that 8-inch firepower. We've changed some of the secondaries to their fancy new quad flush deck turret. Taking the wing turrets off the ship, we now have 2 sets of quad turrets on the back, a triple turret on the back in a 3-step arrangement, and we are now a perfectly balanced ship with a 0.1% offset. The Emperor sent a letter to the French Prime Minister asking if we could holiday in the south of France since we'd finished conquering everyone else, and he said no, so we invaded. If you want to see if the Japanese can crush the slimy French, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because they are on the horizon and they're coming fast. And they are primarily a cruiser force, so it will be interesting to see how they stack up to the Japanese onslaught. I'm Commander Tyrael. This is the Imperial Japanese Navy as I imagined it. See you next time.